Welcome to a spark of awareness. We live in a time where we are constantly being stimulated, prompted by systems, by algorithms, by AI. But when we outsource our answers, we slowly give away our authority, our inner voice, our self-mastery. Conscious leadership has no shortcut, no hack, and it can only begin from within. It is the courage to stop escaping and to sit with what's alive and present inside, even when it's very uncomfortable, but that's where growth is. And this podcast is a space for that. This podcast is an evolution. And every week, I will share a 15-minute human prompt, live, non-performative. It is a moment of reflection drawn from my work in conscious leadership, from the journeys of the leaders I coach and accompany, and from what is moving in a collective film of what is humanity and leadership. I am Sophie Vaux, a conscious leadership coach and guide of transformation. I support leaders who are crossing the threshold right now from the old system of leadership, a legacy, into a deeper, more conscious way of being. If the traditional model no longer resonates, know that you are not alone, and that is your weekly practice. This is your time with your inner world. This is your weekly spark of awareness. Welcome. Welcome to a new episode of A Spark of Awareness. So this week I am resuming the podcast episodes. I took a short break with the series because I was in the process a lot of training and another cycle of transformation. There are never too many of those. So I actually shared some of that work in a blog post instead for the past weeks. But now I'm back on the mic to continue to share some reflections on the series that I started a few weeks ago on the 6 human needs. So you can go back to the previous episodes because this series is very important to touch on what is really behind the driver of people. And those basic human needs, they are universal. And when you understand them, you understand how to work with someone, how to work with yourself, how to work with your shadows in your leadership or in your relationship, and how to grow. So the first 2 episodes were covering first the need of certainty, which usually translates into the need for control. So controlling and can also lead to a lot of authority, dominance. So you can go back to this episode if you feel like this is a need for you and it's overruling your life, and what can you do to have a healthier relationship with a sense of control and the business or company you're running. The second need we covered is the need of variety or uncertainty. So that one is the opposite of certainty. It's the need for newness, the need of new energy, creation, intensity. I can relate to that as well. Like for me, I love new energy, and more than often I have created new ventures, new ideas, new projects, closing the former ones just to feel that new energy, and it creates instability. So you can go back to that episode to have more insights about that one. And today I'm going to cover the third one, which is the need of significance. And that one also feels quite personal to me because as I was going through my work of transformation, growing, especially moving from pure tech leader, gaming leader to consciousness and conscious leadership, and through this journey that requires inner transformation. So I can be in a place of providing insights on how to be more conscious in how we lead ourselves and also the businesses. And so I had to look for myself, running my own business, my own need of significance. So I'll describe what this need of significance covers. So the need of significance is the need to be seen. It's the need to be recognized, to be validated, to be important. So, for example, if you go at an event, you want to be noticed. If you are part of a team, you want to have an important role. And you probably want to build your own company or be in an important, visible role because you want to be significant. And there's nothing really wrong about that need. It's a very, again, human need. When how does it develop when it's or overcompensate when it has been missing? It's maybe you grew up in a house where your voice did not matter, you were not seen, you were more asked to shut down your voice, your opinion, which was the case for me as well, where I also grew up in an environment where, especially Asian culture, when my voice does not exist, I'm insignificant to the collective. So sacrificing the self for the collective. So I started to really have space for myself in my later adulthood because I was working young. I was also responsible for my siblings. So I was not really of a attention of anyone, neither boys at school, the interesting friends, not in my family, except when I had achievements. So that was, now I can share that. The only place when I felt recognized, validated was when I would achieve. And so that became my place of significance. And I went through all the journey of achievements, achieving the roles, achieving the promotions, building companies, being the CEO, being the founder. And it felt great. It felt so good because the title was carrying the significance, more that I could feel significance for myself inside. And that's where the work is. So if you relate to that, where can it go when it becomes unhealthy and can get in the way of the work you do with more awareness? So, for example, this is one of the needs I see very present for many CEO and founders who want to be big, who want to raise a big amount of money, have a big company, make revenues of multiple millions. It's this scale of significance. Because when I ask, why does that matter for you? Why is it important? And usually I have an answer that only when it's that big, it will be worth it. I'm not worth it if I'm not exiting. I'm not worth it if this company doesn't make multiple million. I'm not worth it if I'm not the CEO. So when we have leaders driven by those needs this way, it creates companies that are very centered around the ego. I'm not saying this in a judgmental way, but just the ego of a person, of the founder and the CEO. And it can be very detrimental because it does not meet also employee needs sometimes. It can go in direction that whatever looks good on paper, right? So you see a lot in the space of company that raise millions. They appear in the press. They have this nice photo where everyone looks great. And VCs also want to look great, being by the side of the success of founders who look great. So all the people who need of significance, they will find each other in the ecosystem. And that's how some companies are formed. And again, as employees or middle managers in the middle of it, you can feel it. Something's off, and you're just a piece of a puzzle and insignificant for the significance of someone else. So I always look at those human needs from a lens of leadership. How can you improve your leadership? By self-awareness. So if you find yourself having this drive, this hunger that is can be satisfied by being bigger, by being more, raising more, earning more, examine for yourself, are you in the need of significance? What is the way to practice to have more balance? Because it's not about not being important, not being seen. Like I said, usually those needs appear because somewhere earlier in life we felt insignificant and we want to correct that or overcorrect. So the thing that, for example, for me to practice, because that was very important in my coaching business and leadership journey, to not be that fame figure like I was in the industry. I was very known, popular, even when I did not realize, but it gave me power. It gave me power, it gave me visibility, but it consumed me as well. So I had to find another way, especially on the coaching side, supporting leaders to also go on that path of self-awareness, more balance and serenity in themselves, instead of wearing that mask of overperformance, to learn how to feel important without being important. Yeah, stay with me for a moment. So the significance, when it's built externally, it's over proportion. And the work to do is how to feel significant inside yourself without being seen. And that's where the growth is. So what that looks like, for example, what are the achievements you can do where it doesn't have to be witnessed by anyone, but yourself is enough? Is that enough? Is that enough if you've achieved some numbers, or you achieved something, you finished, you completed, and maybe you share with your loved ones in a private way, but the whole world doesn't need to know? And especially in era of social media where we share everything, it's the era of authenticity. I know it's hard to detach yourself from this, because at the same time you want to show up, and at the same time you want to practice humbleness. So a short practice for you is like, how can you practice accomplishing things without them being seen? How can you be more discreet about the work you do? Less vocal, less out there, and more focused on your work and your own craft, and finding satisfaction in the work itself. So, for example, do you enjoy going at an event where you're not going to be at the center of attention? Can you learn on how to go at an event where you're going to be on a passive role, maybe listening, not at the center, and be there in the position to appreciate another way of being present at an event? Can you learn to appreciate, to accomplish something just for the sake of it? Nobody needs to know, you don't need to make a post about it, but it grants you a big satisfaction, and you witnessing it is enough. So those are some ideas that you can practice to balance this need of significance. As we do more of that, this is a world we're creating where we see super egocentric CEOs and founders, where it's a lot about them, their story, what they raised, and they also even tell a story that they're not doing it for themselves, they're doing it for others, but deep down, of course, they're doing it for themselves. And again, it's nothing wrong, but it's about being true to yourself and leading from a place of authenticity and awareness. So to make that change, you have to be the change. I'm part of a change where I have moved, and it was very, very difficult, painful, to that need of significance, to feel significant without being seen. And so I've been a bit more discreet as well. And I changed also my writing style to have a posture of a teacher, a guide, rather than an expert, somebody who knows better, somebody who's above the others. It's a constant practice, but that's what I needed to do for myself to grow. So as you're reflecting on that human need, let's close for today, as usual, with a grounded meditation. So I'm inviting you to close your eyes and connect with your breathing. And as you're reflecting on the topic of significance, what is moving in you? Are there parts that are triggered? Parts that are unsettled? Or do you feel calmness? What are the thoughts that are racing in your mind? Are you distracted doing something else? So take those few minutes for yourself to just be in presence and connect to your breathing. Always. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. And breathing in breathing out. So stay in your body for a few more seconds. Observe. Maybe you feel a little more already regulated. So that breathing technique that we just did, without forcing the breathing or trying to perform or do the breathing in a certain way, is called heart-focused breathing technique. So you can practice that every day. It's breathing in for 5 seconds and breathing out for 5 seconds. And you repeat that for 5 to 10 times, as long as you need to regulate yourself. It's called coherence breathing. And so when you are breathing this way, you are regulating yourself and put yourself in a state of coherence when the heart, the mind, and emotions are in alignment. So that's what is self-regulation. So it's a very good technique just to regulate when things get a little shaky inside. So I'll leave you with this reflection for the significance, and be with awareness, no judgment or shame. Like I said, I've been there. I'm, working with it constantly, and whose needs, they are our friends. They are here to show us how to grow, where to grow. And if you feel the need to share and exchange, I'd be happy to connect. Have a great week, and I'll see you for the next need next week on the need of love and connection. Thank you for tuning in into this weekly reflection, the weekly spark of awareness. After this episode, I invite you to take a few moments with yourself, even just 15 minutes, to sit with what resonated, to breathe, and to notice what is shifting inside. This is a practice, a discipline of presence, truth, and self-connection. If this work speaks to you, I accompany leaders in one-on-one journeys and group experiences of transformation, supporting them as they cross the threshold into a truer and freer way of leading and living. If you feel called to explore this path, I would love to hear your story, and let's connect. Sending you love and courage, and have a great week ahead. This is my spark of awareness.